Hey babes, and welcome to day one of Small Spells for Pleasure. Today we are diving directly into taking up space for pleasure. I'm so excited that you're here. First of all, before we dive into the material, I want to say it takes a lot of guts to step into the unknown in this realm, especially if you have a strained relationship with pleasure. And the idea of pleasure, the fact that you're here is a big deal. And so I hope that you take a moment today to celebrate the fact that you showed up for your own pleasure today. So what does it mean to take up space in the realm of pleasure for yourself, right? Taking up space in your own life and in your own environment to prioritize pleasure. This isn't an easy thing to do for many of us, especially those of us that were socialized femme or are part of a marginalized group. Taking space for pleasure and for ourselves in general feels extra difficult. And so I want to get us going on a really easy note. So this is one of my favorite practices of all time. And that's to take a Post-it and write, how can this moment be more pleasurable on it? This is such an easy practice that literally will change your life. If you have this Post-it on the back of your front door, on your refrigerator, on your bathroom mirror, you're reminded throughout the day as you move around your space, right, and interact the way you normally would, you're reminded all day long to ask yourself about pleasure, right? Even if you don't do anything about it at first, and you will down the line because muscle memory, even if you don't do anything about it at first, having that thought and the remembrance of pleasure at the forefront is going to be life-changing. And so this is something that I used to do. I used to like put what would make this moment more pleasurable literally on multiple surfaces around my home before I like really got into the habit of asking myself pretty much daily and moment from moment, how can I make this moment more pleasurable? So that's an easy start to pleasure. So I want you, this will be part of your pleasure assignment for today. I want you to take a Post-it and I want you to write, how can I make this moment more pleasurable? And then put it somewhere you look at every single day so that you can have that daily reminder. And then once you get comfortable with seeing that note, you'll start, if you're new to pleasure, this thing will happen where you like feel a ping of like fear or uncertainty or guilt when you ask yourself that question, because society has told us that we're not supposed to take up space in the realm of pleasure. And so work through that feeling really gently by reminding yourself that your pleasure matters and that you can lean into it, like slowly expand into that realm. And so once you get comfortable with asking yourself that question, and I want you to practice this for at least a week. So as you're doing this challenge, work this into your routine. For at least a week, ask yourself, how can I make this moment more pleasurable? And little by little, see if you can do that. See if you can insert those little pings that your body and mind is telling you would be really lovely into whatever you're doing. So like right now, I'm sitting here with my cup of tea. And if I say, how can I make this moment more pleasurable? Lighting a candle would be really nice. Some ambient light, a flickering flame, that would make me feel like really sensual. So as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go do that, right? It could be as easy as that. It does not have to be grand at all. So I want you to do a little meditation with me here. And this is just going to take 2 minutes. This is something that you can work into your day when you're commuting into work, when you are getting ready to put your children to bed, right? Like whatever the in-between moments throughout your day are prime opportunities for pleasure, are prime opportunities for you to check in with your body and your environment to see how and if you're in relationship to pleasure. And so find a cozy place to sit this morning. And then feel your feet on the ground. Close your eyes or make them soft. And then just feel the tips of your fingers. Feel the texture of your fingers. Close your eyes. Soften your breath and breathe into your belly. Feel the texture of your fingers. Notice if there's a taste in your mouth. Maybe it's tea or coffee or chocolate. Is there a texture on the roof of your mouth? What do you hear around you? Are there voices in the background? Is the heater on? Can you hear traffic outside? And then breathe in and notice if there is a scent in the area you're sitting in. Are you wearing perfume? Can you smell a partner or a roommate? Do you have fresh flowers on the table? And then soften your gaze and just open your lids just a little bit. And notice things coming into focus. Is it a texture, a color? What's the first thing you notice in your space? Keeping your eyes soft, I want you to check in with your gut, your belly, your heart. And I want you to ask, how can this moment be more pleasurable? You are now in your body. You're in touch with your senses. You're aware of your surroundings and the edges of your body a little bit more than you were a moment ago. How can you make this moment more pleasurable? Just notice without judgment what information comes up. Maybe it has to do with a specific sense. Maybe it has to do with your emotional or internal state. How can I make this moment more pleasurable? And as you start to come back to your body, as you start to feel your fingertips again, taking deeper breaths and feeling your body moving, your feet on the ground, maybe the texture of the clothing you're wearing. As you come back to your body without judgment, just notice the thing that came up for you. You can take a moment to journal about this now, and I highly encourage you to do. And just without any judgment, or as little judgment as possible, just notice the thing that came up for you. Even if it felt too big to do in the moment, your body is giving you vital information right now. And this is the exercise that we can do in the in-between times, right when we wake up in the morning, right before we go to bed, on our commute to work, right before logging on for the day, before making a phone call we need to make. We can do this little check-in where we drop into our body and just are present with ourselves and inquire lovingly, without judgment, about what would make being in this human body, in this human experience, more pleasurable. This is a very small stretch, and I know that this may feel like a really big stretch for you. If you've never done anything like this before, it can feel really uncomfortable to do. But this is a very small stretch into what's possible, right? A small piece of permission to lean into the thing that feels really good in your human body for you personally, not what society tells us should feel good, and you'll notice your answer probably isn't like, it might be like to take the day off of work, but it might not be, the thing that society tells us is self-care, which is like a bubble bath and a glass of wine, right? Like for most of us, when we actually tune in and ask ourselves, our body has really specific things to say to us about the way we can engage our senses. And that's something that we need to listen to because it's vital information and we can gather so much from it. And so once you journal a little bit about what came up for you and try to incorporate this little exercise in the in-between spots during your day, I want you to also sit down, take a journal, and make a list of 20 things you find really pleasurable. This is an exercise that you've probably heard me give to you before in some form, but this is a really approachable way to check in with yourself. If you find that you're in a place where you have no idea what you find pleasurable at all, like you sit down to make this list and you're like, I can't really think of anything I find pleasurable, right? That should be a little red flag for you that you have not taken the adequate time and space to value your existence in this human body the way that you can. And there are lots of obstacles in our way. Society definitely tells us we should not take up this space, but this is in defiance of, the systems of oppression that we all live under. Taking the time to sit down and make a list of 20 things you find pleasurable gives you a toolbox to reach for the next time you're stressed or anxious or have cramps or feel overwhelmed. You can look at this list and say, oh yeah, taking an extra 10 minutes in solitude, in silence, really helps my mental health. Or, oh yeah, I do remember that eating chocolate when I'm crampy is actually like the way to get me to the other side, right? And into my pleasure. So this is a very approachable tool. And you'll also have some journaling prompts in the email. So make sure that you look that over several times. But these small practices, I know that they don't seem like really big commitments to change your life, but this is literally the way that I changed my life, is taking really small steps and being in relationship to my body and my pleasure. This is the thing society really doesn't want us to do, because if we are in tune with what the heck is happening here in our bodies, in our minds, and are in touch with what our pleasure and desire is in the world, we're pretty much unstoppable. And so I want to see you get on that path and get started with this little exercise. And if you feel like sharing, we would definitely love to hear what your pleasure list looks like and what that exercise feels like for you, if you feel like sharing that. If at any point during this challenge you feel uncomfortable or stretched to your limit, please know that you know best what you need. Take what you will, leave the rest, utilize any of the tools that really resonate for you, and feel free to let go of the other ones. But if you feel like trying it, remember that consistency is key. So if you're trying this exercise or you're putting a Post-it on your door, try it for at least a week, because it takes our minds, especially when they've been trained by society to think one way, it takes our minds and bodies to remember and trust a different approach over a period of time. So be patient with yourself. Mwah.